or sitting in traffic. It could be the person driving the car in front of you or behind. Can you tell who they are? Chances are you can't, because the poor tend to drop out of our view, but they really aren't out of our sight. In fact, they can be right next door. The poor are not always homeless, but they may be living in a relative's home instead of one of their own. They're not always jobless, but because of reduced hours or lowered pay rates, the basic needs of their household cannot be sustained through their income. They're not necessarily suffering from mental illness or the abandonment of loved ones, but they're suffering from anxiety, stress, and shame. It is the mission of Administer Justice to guide the poor out of the shadows. Through a comprehensive program of professional services offered at no cost, we offer hope. Help comes in the form of compassionate advocates, attorneys, financial counselors, and professional mediators who don't just want to deal with the nuts and bolts of the problems, but the heart and soul of the person experiencing them. We want to see our clients overcome their fear of the unknown, their lack of understanding of their rights and obligations, or their reluctance to take that next step. And so we provide them with a plan, not just to solve today's problems, but to prevent them from being repeated tomorrow. And once they have that plan, we want to see them empowered to move forward, equipped with the tools they need to face a brighter future. Their hope depends on your help. We've all heard the phrase, "You have the right to an attorney." But did you know that this is only true if someone is being accused of a crime? The thousands of people we see every year have no such right. Without a legal advocate, they are left to fend for themselves.
Every day, our phones ring off the hook. Some days, our waiting room can't hold all the people who come to us for help. As the poverty rolls grow, so does the demand for our services. Too many low-income individuals don't even know there is such a thing as charitable legal assistance available. We need to reach them, and when we do, our staffing and services must be able to keep up. We never want to turn anyone away. Less than 12% of our support comes from government grants. We rely on the support of people just like you to answer the call to administer justice with mercy and compassion. Your support doesn't just fix a problem, it changes a life.
After I met with the attorney, I just knew everything would be okay.
Just knowing what was going to happen next took a huge load off my mind.
I just don't know what would have happened to us if they hadn't been there.
Okay, one of the reasons I show that, I'll go through some of these true-false quizzes, but as you go out, it's very important. You will find that there truly is a massive misunderstanding of who the poor are in America. We're bombarded with the images overseas, and we know what poverty is in other places of the world, but so often we miss what poverty is right next to us. Those statistics, 1 in 3, that's true from the 2010 census. That's the number of Americans all across the country who experience at least 2 months of poverty. Causes for that are frequently legal over a 4-year period of time. Even within the United States, if you now know the recent statistics, the largest poverty roll ever, we're at 63 million people who are in poverty. It's a huge number of individuals. So. And also, it's helpful to let people know, like true or false, most of the poor live in America live in cities. True, right? That's what we would think. For a long time, it's been the urbans. It's not true anymore. More than 1.5 million live in suburban communities rather than urban communities. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't needs in all areas, urban, suburban, and rural. But what it does mean is wherever God's placed you, you have a field to call in. You don't have to feel like you live in the country, you've got to travel to the city in order to help. Or if you live in the suburbs, here, you don't have to travel in the city necessarily, because the poor are all around us. True or false, most of the poor in America are generationally or chronically poor. False. And yet, it amazes me, Hollywood still perpetuates this image of the poor in America, and it's what I believed. I mean, I believed all the poor lived in cities. I believed that they were the individuals who were in the subway. If you go downtown right now, or lived on a Lower Wacker Avenue in the city of Chicago, that's where you'll see some homeless gather. I thought that they lived with newspapers wrapped over top of them, and all of this. That is 4%, 4% of the poor in America. 96% are individuals like you and I who have had something happen to them. And that number one something is the breakup of a family. So the number one poor person in this country is a single mom. It's the child, and in fact, probably even in your notes, I think I said 20% of children. Well, now, that was before the 2010 census came out. That now is 35% of children are in poverty. So they are the number one poor person in this country, followed by their single mom. 58% of all women with a child under the age of 6 who are single are in poverty. So that is what is happening in our country, and it's not who we think, and they have lots of needs. And many of the poor in this country are embarrassed, and they have a hard time coming and talking to somebody. Even this, true or false, most of the poor are minorities. Oh, that's false. A lot of us think that. We just have the image of, oh, well, it is that African American in the urban area or a Hispanic. And it's true, both of them have 25% of their population in poverty, so that's a higher percentage than our 18% Caucasian. But as an overall raw numbers, it's not even close. The raw numbers are Caucasian who are poor in America. And so a lot of us just don't know who the poor are and who we need to help. This is also a true statement. I'll just tell you that more than 4,300 people are turned away from every day from legal aid. That comes from an American Bar Association study, and through the Legal Services Corp. That's now a few years old. I'm sure that that number is actually much higher today, and every day. And that we just cannot allow that to happen. The same thing as the statistic you saw in the video of 75% don't even know that there's help available to them, and they certainly don't know that there will be Christian help available for them. And so we need to do something to change that. And we want to. We want to get involved and make a difference. One of the things I encourage you is you get out, you just want to communicate with people. A lot of people feel like, well, how am I going to do this? If I'm starting an organization, how am I going to do this? Because I can't raise money. It is absolutely not about raising money. It is about raising awareness and letting people know the needs. Letting people know what God says about those needs. Letting people know about the lives of people that are changed. So we have posters like this around it, and all around our offices you would find pictures of clients and stories of clients that we would tell, because that's what makes the difference. So this is Grant over here, and his attorney Scott Nadala, and we would tell stories like Grant, and we tell stories of other individuals who are caught sometimes in the housing crisis. So Grant was in an automobile accident. So he was just like you and I, but he got into an automobile accident. The automobile accident left him disabled with permanent brain damage. Lived in Section 8 housing. Landlord wanted to get rid of because he was the last tenant in Section 8 housing, so he could convert to condominiums. Figured this guy's not going to be able to defend himself, so he just sent him an eviction notice. Claimed he hadn't paid the rent. Grant knew he paid the rent, but couldn't prove it because he had trouble keeping things organized. So if you get involved in legal aid, you'll have clients maybe like this. So Grant comes into our office with a big garbage bag full of documents, dumps it out, hoping that there's a receipt in there because he knew he got one. There wasn't. But Scott agreed to get involved, a young attorney, right out of law school, and he didn't know anything, but he really wanted to make a difference. So he jumped in, got involved, even went over to Grant's apartment to try to help him look, couldn't find anything. Went to the bank, though, and got proof. Went to court with the proof. Landlord said, oh, I didn't mean that date, I meant a different date that he didn't pay. Forced a continuance. Now Scott went back to the bank, got proof yet again, went into court, and this time the judge threw the case out, refusing to let them come back in. And Grant is now homeless, which he would have been. And had he been kicked out of the Section 8 program, he would not be able to get back into it. So literally, he would have been out of the program forever, and being disabled, he would have probably found himself on the streets and probably died. you can make that kind of a difference. And Scott was just a young lawyer, right out of law school. But he got involved and had such a profound difference with he and Grant, and they actually maintained a friendship now over the years because of that, and Grant's doing well. Rosalinda, we see a lot of individuals who are immigrants who get taken advantage of. And Rosalinda was one of those. She came into us for financial counseling because she had a huge medical debt. She immigrated to this country lawfully from the Philippines, and she needed benefits for her husband who needed a medical procedure. He got that done, and then she was sued. Well, she didn't know to question authority. She didn't want to question anything. She just wanted to figure out, well, it's a huge debt, but I got to pay it. So how can I? So she came in to meet with a financial counselor. We also have financial counselors that help people with budgets. And she met with the financial counselor. He saw that she had health insurance taken out of her check, no health insurance paid. So well, maybe this is an easy thing to resolve. Nobody told the insurance company. So he calls the insurance company, learns that no, there's no insurance. See, the employer was pocketing everybody's insurance premiums and not letting anyone else, not paying it to the insurance company. So nobody had benefits because she had an immigrant workforce. All of them, many of them undocumented, some of them documented, assumed that none of them speaking language well, that none of them would complain. When our financial counselor, of course, learned that, got the attorney involved, and an attorney was able to drag the employer, of course, into the proceedings and make the employer responsible. But that kind of fraud is rampant, and we don't understand that it's out there. We don't understand that we have individuals who come to a church. We hold clinics or meetings and appointments in churches. And so just a few weeks ago, at one of our churches, we had a man come in there who never would have stepped foot inside that church except to see a lawyer. But he did. And when that lawyer prayed for him, and all of our lawyers pray with clients before they start, it just turned his world upside down. That was not his image of what a lawyer was or what a lawyer did. And so when that lawyer did that, it just made a powerful impact. You could feel it. And as they began a dialogue, he said, I haven't been to church. No, I don't know who Jesus is. But they began a dialogue. That dialogue continued, and Jeff wound up accepting Christ as a Savior, and now is very active in that church, in the men's group. And it's seeing that kind of difference. That's the difference between the two kinds of groups. And Jeff now knows. He knows that, hey, he came in to see us about a foreclosure. And you know what? He doesn't know, and we don't know what the end result of that's going to be. He may lose his home. But this is what Jeff knows, and what he says is, I don't know what's going to happen with that home, but I know that I have a home in glory, a mansion in glory that can never be foreclosed upon. And that's the difference that Christian legal aid can make. And it's a profound difference in the lives of people who are broken, who are hurting, and who need help and who need hope. We want to learn to do right, seek justice. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, I encourage you, just go online. Just do a Google search on some of these things. Search financial exploitation. You will be amazed at the amount of financial exploitation that takes place amongst our senior citizens, amongst our immigrant population. It is tragic, and it's all around us. We just don't want to see it. Search elder abuse. We don't even have any good statistics in the United States for the abuse of the elderly. There is no good national report on elder abuse, but all of local areas that report, it is significant, the amount of abuse that takes place. Immigrant exploitation. It happens all the time as well. Homeless children. That's something that we don't think about either. But just in my area, I live in Elgin, which is only a city of like 110,000. We had more than 1,600 homeless children last year. It's because the homeless don't live on the street. The homeless bounce from house to house. They live with friends. They live with family, temporarily here and there. And as those poor kids are moved around, they don't know where. Oftentimes the parents move them from school district to school district to school district because they're moving out of districts. Well, they don't have to do that, but they don't know that. And the district doesn't tell them that. Federal law, the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act, says that they can stay in this district where they were. Well, that's a lot better for their education. How is any child going to learn if they have to spend time in 4 different school districts in a year? They're just not. But they don't know that. We need to be able to give education. We do a lot of preventative education. We need to let people know this. I encourage you when you go back, just contact. Every district is required